Today I'm going to show you how to cook quinoa in an electric pressure cooker. Hi, I'm Aaliyah Millam. I'm the founder of the food blog Premeditated Leftovers, and I'm the author of the cookbook series Prep Ahead Meals, and my latest cookbook is Prep Ahead Breakfasts and Lunches. And in this cookbook I share how to make meal prep bowls so that you can make your lunches ahead of time. And I also have some meal prep salads. And in these I use quinoa, not in every single recipe, but in enough of them that I wanted to show you how I cook a large batch of quinoa in an electric pressure cooker. Now, what I'm going to do, I always struggle with getting the lid off. Okay, so we are going to take the rack out of our pressure cooker. I have 2 cups of quinoa. If you've got it from the bulk bins, you're going to want to put it in a very fine mesh, maybe even put a cloth underneath it and rinse it. And you can see there's a little bit of dust that's going everywhere. Okay, so for 2 cups of quinoa, I'm going to use 4 cups of water in the electric pressure cooker. So I use a ratio of 1 to 2. So if you have a large pressure cooker and you want to cook 3 cups of dry quinoa, then you use 6 cups of water. But why would you cook 1 cup of quinoa and 2 cups of water? I mean, if you're going to already turn on the pressure cooker, you might as well make a large batch of it, because you can not only refrigerate quinoa for up to a week, but you can freeze it and then thaw it when you need it, so it's already pre-cooked. Okay, so I'm going to add the water. Now, if you want to, instead of adding 4 cups of water, you could add 4 cups of your favorite broth, vegetable or chicken or beef, depending on what recipes you're going to use it in. I'm just using water because I am going to be adding the flavoring later on. So I want to have a large batch so I can cook it a variety of different ways. Now, I'm going to put the lid on. I'm as bad putting the lid on as I am taking it off. Okay, so I have sealed my pressure cooker, and then I'm going to make sure that this valve is, for me, it's pushed to pressure. It's clicked to pressure rather than pressure release. You don't want it on pressure release because then the steam is going to go out and it's not going to cook as well in there. Okay, now I'm going to set this to high pressure, and then I'm going to set the time for 6 minutes. Yep, 6 minutes. And people ask me what kind of pressure cooker I use. My electric pressure cooker is a Cuisinart. I hope that's how you pronounce it, since I'm saying this publicly. But you can use these directions with whatever pressure cooker you have. If you have an Instant Pot, you're going to want to reduce the water. Instant Pots do not release as much steam when they're cooking as electric pressure cookers. So when I am cooking my quinoa in an Instant Pot, I use a ratio of 1 cup of quinoa to 1 3/4 cup of water. So for 2 cups of quinoa, I would only use 3.5 cups of water. So now what we're going to do, this is, I push start, it's cooking. I'm going to come back in 6 minutes, and I'm going to show you how we do the quick release method. Okay, so the timer just went off. It's cooked for 6 minutes. So I'm going to use a pot holder, and I'm going to flip the switch so that the steam will quickly come out. Okay, so it's really noisy. A lot of steam comes out. It's really hot. That's why I use my pot holder. And as soon as it is done, then we're going to be able to use our quinoa. I had to shift this because the steam was going to my upper camera. But I put the upper camera on because people always email me and they're like, why don't you show us the inside of the pot? And I'm like, because it breaks cameras when you do. Okay. So now that all the steam has been released, I'm going to remove the lid. When we remove the lid, we want to be careful because there's going to be water and it's hot. So I just let that water go back down in there. And there's more steam, of course. Okay, so you can see that this is nice and fluffy. Can you see all that yummy, yummy quinoa? Okay, so now that I have gotten my facial sauna, we can move on. So I have all this quinoa. I have probably at least 10 cups of quinoa, cooked quinoa, because it absorbed all that liquid and it's nice and fluffy. So I am going to be using some of this to make one bowl wonders. I'm going to add quinoa, some vegetables, some meat, and have a meal all in one bowl to send with my husband to work. The other thing I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to go ahead and freeze some of it once it comes to room temperature, because you can freeze quinoa and then you can freeze it for up to 3 months. So what I like to do is I like to freeze it in usable portions. So I'm going to probably freeze it in 2-cup portions, because then that's perfect for pulling out and either using it in quinoa bowls or to add it to a soup or to add it to a salad. It's just a really nice amount. So I am going to freeze these 2 containers. Once they come to room temperature, I'll put the lids on and I'll put them in the freezer, and then I'll have them for the future. Whenever I need them for whatever recipe calls for quinoa, I'll just add this cooked quinoa to it. But I have all this other quinoa down in here, and I am going to be using this to make some quinoa lunch bowls. Some really easy recipes that we can prep ahead of time and then enjoy throughout the week. You can find this recipe in my latest cookbook, Prep Ahead Breakfasts and Lunches. And you will also find some one bowl wonder recipes that use quinoa. You'll find some salad recipes that use quinoa as well as tons of meal prep recipes so that you can make your breakfast and lunch ahead of time and then enjoy it all week without any work.